Welcome to the final installment of my 10-day bike trip series exploring the shores of Lake Huron and Lake Simcoe in Ontario, Canada. In this segment, I'll be riding my bike from Guelph Lake Conservation Area down to the Burlington Go Station, where I'll catch a train back to my home city of Toronto. So today is Sunday, July 29th, 2018, and I woke up at my campsite at around 6:30 a.m. I decided to get an early start today since it's the last day of my vacation and I'll have lots of unpacking to do once I get home. I had my tent and everything packed up and ready to go by 7 a.m. The clouds were looking very photogenic this morning. I climbed onto my bike and made my way towards the exit of the park. The very beginning of my route this morning will be backtracking the route that I took into Guelph Lake yesterday. From Conservation Drive, I turned right onto Watson Road and headed northwest. I made a right turn onto Mill Road and headed down a big hill. Down at the bottom of this hill is a crossing of the Speed River, upstream from where it flows into Guelph Lake. After climbing to the top of a steep hill, I reached Jones Baseline and turned right. I've now backtracked to the point where I abandoned my original planned route yesterday to Rockwood, so I'm now exploring all new scenery. I had originally been planning on camping at Rockwood Conservation Area last night, but unfortunately they didn't have any vacancies, so I went to Guelph Lake instead. Just before reaching Highway 124, Jones Baseline curves around beside the east arm of Guelph Lake. This morning everything's so calm and still, and the lake surface is like glass. Across the lake I can see some rowers out for an early morning row. Guelph Lake is home to the Guelph Rowing Club, as well as the University of Guelph's rowing team. On the other side of the highway, Guelph Lake continues further to the east. I headed northeast along Highway 124. The time is just after 7:30, and thankfully this busy highway seems to have very light traffic on it this early on a Sunday. When I reached the Fourth Line, I made a right turn and headed southeast. This is the Stone United Church, first constructed in 1863. The temperature dropped down to 10 degrees Celsius last night, but it's already warmed up to 18 degrees Celsius so far this morning. When I reached Highway 7, I should have continued southeast, but I instead decided to turn left and head towards Rockwood. Since I didn't end up getting to camp at Rockwood Conservation Area last night, I figured I might as well take a quick ride through it this morning since I'm riding right past it anyway. I followed the park roads down towards the lake, which is looking very calm, still, and beautiful this morning. This water body technically isn't a lake, it's actually part of the Eramosa River. Rockwood Conservation Area is operated by the Grand River Conservation Authority, who also operates Guelph Lake as well as Conestoga Lake, as all of these water bodies eventually flow into the Grand River. There's a hiking trail around the perimeter of the park called the Cedar Ridge Trail, which I thought I might be able to take, but it ended up not being suitable for my bike. So I made my way back up the hill and exited the park where I came in. From Fall Street, I made a left turn back onto Highway 7 and headed back towards where I had come from. I made a left turn onto Guelph Line, which is the continuation of the Fourth Line where I had been riding previously. This road seems to have more traffic on it, so I was glad to make a right turn onto Indian Trail. This route will take me through the small community of Eden Mills. I made a left turn onto Ash Street and headed southeast. I've been noticing lots of rabbits this morning. With a current population of 350, Eden Mills is situated on the Eramosa River and was founded in 1842. After riding a short stretch along Wilson Street, I headed southeast along the second line. I've now left Guelph Eramosa Township and entered the boundary of the Town of Milton, which is within Halton Region. The second line is a very straight, quiet country road, which is perfect for cycling on. Even though I'm getting closer and closer to the suburbs by the minute, on this road I still feel very much like I'm riding out in the country. That gray truck is one of very few vehicles I've seen on this road in the entire 40 minutes I've spent riding on it, and that truck wasn't even moving. As much as I would have loved to continue riding on the second line, it doesn't have an overpass of Highway 401, so I headed southwest along Sideroad 10. I next made a left turn onto the First Line Nassagaweya to continue southeast. This road has slightly more traffic on it than the second line, but at least it has an overpass over Highway 401. The time is now around 9:45 and the temperature has risen to 22 degrees Celsius. This road I'm riding on is part of the Greenbelt route, which is a 475 kilometer cycling route stretching from Alderville to Queenston. With a number of curves and jogs, the first line isn't nearly as straight as the second line I was riding on earlier. Most of this area is also under thick tree coverage. The name of this road is now changed to McNiven Rd, and after crossing Derry Rd, I've now entered the next municipality, which is the City of Burlington. According to this sign, a large section of Cedar Springs Rd is closed, which is unfortunate considering I was planning on riding on it for the next 9 kilometers. I consulted my map and it looks like the detour route would add a considerable amount of distance to my ride and also force me to ride on Guelph Line, which is a much busier road. So I just decided to take my chances with Cedar Springs Rd and made a right turn onto it from McNiven Rd. So far it just appears that the road is closed for repaving, so the next few kilometers might be a bit bumpy. If it'll save me from detouring onto Guelph Line, I can handle a few bumps. My real concern had been that one of the bridges at the bottom of the valley might have been completely closed and I wouldn't have been able to get across. But sure enough, I was able to make it all the way to Britannia Rd, where I saw a large group of road cyclists out for a Sunday ride. As I continue southeast along Cedar Springs Rd, I'm now working my way to the top of the Niagara Escarpment, which is the same rock formation that I crossed back on day 5 of this trip. The green sign on the right says entering Hamilton Harbour Watershed, which indicates to me that I've now crossed over the top of the escarpment, so it should be all downhill from here. Ahead in the distance I can even see Lake Ontario. So I began my descent down the long hill into Burlington. After crossing Dundas Street, the name of this road changes to Brant Street. It certainly feels different riding on a suburban arterial road again after so many days of mostly riding on quiet country roads. After passing under Highway 403, there's a bike lane on Brant Street, and I made a left turn onto Plains Road. The main entrance to the Burlington Go Station is from Fairview Street, but there's also this back entrance. In similar fashion to the conclusion of my bike trip in May, I arrived at the Go Station just a few seconds too late to catch one of the trains. Thankfully, this line has half-hour service on weekends, so there should be another train coming along soon. Of course, it would have been possible for me to have ridden my bike all the way back to Toronto without taking the train, but I really don't enjoy riding my bike in the suburbs nearly as much as I enjoy riding it in the country. On a trip like this, when I have a limited number of days to travel, the GO train has allowed me to maximize the type of riding I enjoy most. The train ride from Burlington to Union Station takes just over an hour. As the train gradually approaches the city, the scenery becomes more and more urban. As I comfortably sat on the train, I enjoyed the remainder of my packaged foods for lunch. I arrived at Union Station at 12:45 and pushed my bike through the station to street level. As I ride on these streets I've ridden so many times before, I can't help but feel like the buildings got taller while I was away. I made my way home to my apartment along a familiar route. The temperature has now risen to 24 degrees Celsius. After 10 days out enjoying the open road, at around 1 p.m. I arrived back at the parking garage in my apartment building. It feels great to be back home enjoying my beautiful view overlooking the city. My first order of business after getting home was to film a video showing all the gear I've been carrying with me on the trip, which is a topic many viewers have requested. If you haven't seen that video already, there's a link in the description below. So including my ride from Union Station back home, I rode my bike a total of 74 kilometers today. That brings my total distance for the trip up to 985 kilometers, making it the longest bike trip I've ever done. When I tally up my expenses for the trip, I spent just over $850. My biggest expense was camping permits. Making up a similar amount of the pie together was meals at restaurants and grocery items, or in other words, my fuel for the trip. I also spent a considerable amount on my water taxi journey to Boatsolay Island and back. The remainder was miscellaneous, which mostly consisted of supplies for repairing my bike, and finally GO train fares. All in all, I think it was pretty affordable for a 10-day vacation away from home. From beginning to end, this trip was so much fun, and I can't wait to start planning my next bike trip. I'm constantly amazed at how much beautiful scenery there is within my home province of Ontario. On this trip I got to see so many places I've never seen before, and also cross paths with places I have. Bike touring is truly one of the best ways to travel. If you've made it through watching all 10 parts of this video series, I strongly encourage you to reward yourself with a bike tour of your own. If you haven't already seen the videos from my 9-day bike trip back in May, check out the link in the description below. I hope you enjoyed joining me through to the end of this 10-part video series. As always, please leave a comment below and let me know what you thought, and thanks for watching.